Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and today a special video. This time we're taking an early look at Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Yes, an entire sentence of a title there for a first impressions review. This comes from Sandfall Interactive, and we're able to play this turn-based strategy game a little bit before its release. It breaks out of that turn-based strategy concept though, thanks to quick-time actions, dodges and parries and more. And not only does it twist the basics of turn-based, but it's the characters, the world and its story that are very ambitious. With big names like Charlie Cox, yes, Daredevil, Jennifer English, who you might know as Shadowheart, Ben Starr, Andy Serkis, and more. It's crazy, and they're just giving these incredible performances throughout. So I found myself invested thanks to the serious effort that's been put into these characters and their stories, so there's just some cool things to talk about here. Having said all of that, this video will be trying to avoid any and all major spoilers, and in fact it's just going to stick to that opening section of the game, the prologue, Act 1 for basic references. Don't worry too much about it. So with that said, let's talk Clair Obscur Expedition 33. We'll begin with one of the strongest aspects of the game, the story. The basic setup that you'll learn about within the first few minutes of the game is this. The world is warped, twisted, and quite strange. And the survivors of this current situation, they live together on essentially an island out at sea. The problem here is that they're all on essentially a time limit that's been ticking down over the last 67 years. Every year, this strange character named the Paintress wakes up and changes the number on this big monolith overlooking the city. She lowers that number by 1, and everyone older than that number currently, they all fade away, they get erased. So this surviving group is desperately racing against the clock. Can they solve the situation and come up with a solution before they all run out of time? That's where a lot of research and attempts against the Paintress need to happen. How does that happen? Well, it's expeditions, and we're part of Expedition 33, hence the name of the game. That's the number currently written on the monolith, 33, and everyone older than that just faded. Many expeditions have taken place though, and information's slowly been gathered. At this desperate point, some of the best are going out to simply try. So our initial character, Gustave, is a genius engineer who's almost out of time himself. Joined by many other volunteers, he heads out on Expedition 33 to challenge the Paintress and learn what he can. And it doesn't exactly go to plan, but having survived the initial start of the expedition and making it to the continent, the journey of that begins and the unpacking of this strange world and its mystery is underway. So, strong themes of desperate hope as continuous loss occurs. It is dark fantasy. But it's a very strong start to a very strange world, of which the rules of normal nature definitely don't apply. You've got crazy inventions and gadgets, you're fighting your way through strange monsters, in a world that is quite strange indeed. So while the setup and main story itself is definitely fascinating and gripping, it's the characters and the actors behind them that really steal the show. One great example of that is the panicked anxiety of Gustave, played by Charlie Cox, right? He struggles through his sentences quite a lot at times when he's trying to express himself, but then in times of danger, he'll go from stunned, complete inaction to a total flip on that, with decisions first and thinking later to try to make up for his past, well, lack of actions. So it's a very believable jump between the moments of the drama and the action, compared to say the results and trauma that follows after all that adrenaline stops. But this topic, it has to be experienced really. The performances take the story they're trying to tell and makes it a lot more believable. The stakes and consequences of all of it have greater gravity though, because these characters feel real compared to say plenty of characters I've seen in games before. So I described the overall world and story, the characters involved and what's going on here as a kind of big puzzle box that you're slowly working your way through and unraveling in a very satisfying way. Between the stories, characters, and the performance of all of that, this is clearly a very strong aspect of the game. It feels like they're going to win some awards with this. But I'd also like to highlight the whole theme and feel of the world itself. You've got the music, which is incredible. There's the main theme of the game, but it's there while you're out in the world. Melancholic themes that play throughout the prologue as you get the context of this dark world. The jump to exploring a forest and the feel of that. The combat, or when you enter the flying waters for the first time. It all matches very well. Those areas are fantastic though. The prologue has you in this strange, half-destroyed city that's all warped, like a bit of Paris has been ripped and spit into the ocean. We have high-up forests and mountains to pass through, or suddenly something completely different, an underwater world. You're not actually underwater, but everything feels as though you are. Bubbles are floating up around you, there's strange fish and whales and alien-like life forms that are swimming through the air above you. The colours here stand in stark contrast to the bright greens of the forest, to now the deep reds, purples and blues. giving you a visual variety very early into the game. At one point, you try to enter a building built into this unique terrain, only to suddenly find yourself in this crazy fancy manor that's very well kept. So it's all very dreamlike, a world where they can kind of come up with whatever they think of, keeping you guessing and struggling to put together how it all connects. Probably because of that mysterious paintress and the creations she's made. But all of that covers the feel and theme of the game. But at the end of the day, it is a game, so let's dive into some of the details of that and how that works and feels. We can kind of chop the world and the exploration of it into two main modes. There's the overworld, as it were, and the main areas you actually play in. Before long, you'll find yourself on this massive map progressing northwards towards the paintress. Throughout this overworld is areas we can go into and enter, which are expansive and obviously where a lot of the stuff takes place. But to progress through this overworld, you can just run around and find the entrances to these different areas and go in, but a lot of it is blocked off at first. There's going to be shortcuts to open back up for yourself, enemies to fight here, items to find, but at any time while you're in the overworld, you can pop over to the camp. Here you can manage your gear, upgrade it, consider the expedition logs you've found so far, speak with the NPCs and progress their relationships and more. While you're inside the main levels, these areas are the main aspect of the game, each with their own strong theme and story, filled with enemies, items and challenges. The exploration of it is pretty basic at first, quite literally just a main path you follow that offers kind of some short offshoots, which usually results in a fight or items or both. But it does get a bit more interesting as we start to involve the interesting technology to climb and grapple around, or say jumping around with jump puzzles, hopping on pillars and making your way up to find hidden better items. Exploration is rewarded, as basic as it is though. You get a ton of currency for trading or special items that really help, whether that's more resources to respec or the many pictos to use to essentially create builds. Finding special enemies and defeating them often rewards new weapons which scale differently with attributes. Mini bosses exist, the special paint chests can be found, those you need to shoot special orbs glowing around the area to reveal the loot within the chest. So you got basic exploration, puzzles and that kind of thing, but overall I found it quite straightforward in my experience. It's the themes, the story being told, the combat around that are usually the stronger parts of this game, where I felt the exploration, the progression through these levels, pretty familiar and basic. But one very strong part of the game then is of course the combat, which is decided by a ton of things all at once. It's turn-based strategy that needs to have many levels to it, but how that's introduced and how it layers on top of itself, that's important. Clair Obscur starts basic, but with a cool twist on the turn-based concept that, well, isn't turn-based at all. Between your turns, you have quick time actions and reactions. That means on your attack, you have these different quick time actions to press at the right moment, like a rhythm game. If you do those successfully, you continue an attack to its completion, the next part of the combo, or you'll enhance it, especially if you perfectly time the press, which is very satisfying. Then, when the enemy takes their turn, you can either dodge or parry every attack. This requires precise timing on those attacks though. The enemies can use slow attacks to bait you out, long combos, slow, fast, fast, slow, that kind of thing, and they split their attention between the characters and use different moves. So you have to identify the attack types, the order of it, and respond with perfect evades or parries to null the damage. Now, these dodges, these evades, they're easier with better, more forgiving frames on them, but parries are way more rewarding on average because you get to deal a pile of damage when it's not even your turn if you parry every attack. You do have enemies that try to attack the party all at once, so you might need to parry those, or maybe you need to jump over an earthquake slam. So there's absolutely moment-to-moment skill in this turn-based combat. You have to pay attention during enemy attacks, and you get massive rewards if you're able to pull it off. Adding on top of that, you also have range attacks, letting you aim at the enemy and fire off shots for AP, which doesn't take up your turn. Depending on the target, you've got weaknesses that could be big explosions of a mine or nice bursts of damage when successfully popped. It's very satisfying. So this all dodges outside and around the turn-based classic mechanics, but let's talk about those, like how we have general speed to decide the turn order. You've got basic attacks, skills and items for each of your turns. This is managed by a system with points, which you build and spend naturally. Each character has their own unique power system though, that greatly affects how you play them, how things set up. The first character you have, Gustave, has this special arm that builds charges that you can then spend on super strong attacks when it's fully charged. Lune, the mage, everything they have ties to elements. Though characters can access elements, hers has the sort of biggest lean into that. Elements also stain the target, which can then be consumed for other stronger effects. You have shields to break through, and all kinds of other systems that get introduced to you. It might sound like a lot, but again, it's introduced to you bit by bit. The dodging and parrying, the shooting, that's all there instantly. Those fun mechanics happen around the turn-based style, which is classic turn-based management that gets more complicated as you go. So you do get lots of time to get comfortable with the fast reaction stuff, because it's there from the start. You're also able to have up to 6 skills equipped per character, which changes your options a lot. How you synergize them together, it plays a huge role. So all that outside of turn-based stuff, it makes it all way more heart-pumping in the moment, skill is heavily rewarded, and even required to progress on the harder challenges and difficulties. But how do builds play into that? Let's get into that. We just covered the elements and how that works, but you can actually set up a character to weave those elements into the party overall. So maybe you have someone on the team who sets up fire stains on the target, someone that enhances that fire damage on their turn, someone that benefits when the target is already afflicted by fire, that kind of thing. But classically, you can set up someone as the healer or the defender, the shield breaker, exposers, the ranger, and so on. There's lots of different purposes, weaknesses, and benefits. Certain elements are not going to be that effective against targets, some are going to be super strong, so you have to think about it. But what I like about this so far is that in the skill tree, everyone seems to be able to focus on these main aspects. So if you want a fire user, all 3 of the first characters can engage with fire skills in some way that generate or enhance it. So multiple could be protectors to reduce incoming damage or have some way to heal. The idea is that you've got this variety of interesting characters, but they all have access to the core principles of the combat, letting you bring who you want because you can set them up to be that kind of role. This comes from the skill tree, which lets you unlock the skills by leveling up. With that, you also get attributes as you level up. These are points that scale your character's progression. You give them more health, more speed for the turn order, more raw damage, look for crits, and so on. But the weapon that you have equipped affects how these things scale. So you could have a weapon that scales with defense and agility compared to one that scales with vitality and luck. These weapons can be leveled up to enhance them, providing new passives like cheaper skills, increased specific damage types, really impactful passives. You find these weapons by exploring or through combat, and the game is kind enough to give you lots of resources to let you level up new weapons if you find something to make a change with. The other aspect of builds though is pictos and luminous. A picto is basically a passive benefit you get, like dodge is the first one they give you, meaning you get an extra AP for landing your first dodge per round. Another early one would be burning shots. Maybe you'll set a target on fire when you successfully shoot it. You could generate AP on kill or increase the base attack damage. I set up one character to mark targets and set them on fire, maybe every time I shoot them with my gun. So I have a character set up to be the one that pops the weak points early for lots of benefits through these pictos. As you use these more though, after 4 battles with them equipped, they become the mastered versions, making its Lumina available. The Lumina, on the other hand, doesn't need the pictos to be equipped at all. So you'll unlock that concept by playing with that pictos and then equipping it as a Lumina. That lets you set up other builds by leveling pictos that are currently equipped to help get characters going with a new build concept fast. So I find the setup and builds around the concept pretty reasonable. I wouldn't say there's anything groundbreaking about it. Classic turn-based RPG systems with important details to it, where you can redo things a bit and you can progress things in a fairly free way. You can have the characters lean into different purposes and uses across the roster. So if you want a healer or protector or whatever, there's a good amount of them that can be that role. So classic stuff, but with important freedom of choice, and I think that's solid. Lastly, for some quick extra details you might want to know before we go into the conclusion. The game does release on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows PC. I've been playing it on Steam personally. It is indeed a single player game, but they have told us that you can expect about a 30-hour average for the main story only, but with the pile of side content they have in the game and around it all, there's another rough 30 hours there too. So I figured I should mention that stuff. But that now brings me to my conclusion of these first impressions. I think this setup, the world, the story, is fantastic. Very weird, very interesting, and a big mystery that they're clearly going to let us unravel as we go. The world itself is very unique and varied, but also super immersive, down to the ambient sounds, the little visual details, and the weird way that it's kind of all slammed together. The combat itself is classic turn-based concepts, but with plenty of depth to it, and a lot of it surprisingly skill-based. Aspects of an action RPG that twist the turn-based nature and made me appreciate it a lot more. Those details have made the combat way more engaging and actually quite challenging beyond the basics of turn-based party setups and, just using the right skills against the right target. But outside of all of that, overall out of everything, it's these characters and the performances behind them that really steal the show. It's really nice to see kind of a team be ambitious in this way and bring in proper actors, people respected for this kind of craft, and really try to do something special with it. So I can definitely appreciate that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to diving deeper into the game. We plan to provide some helpful guides and videos in the coming days, since, you know, this game can really challenge you. For now though, I hope this first impressions overview has helped inform you, but until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.